Everybody, it's Carlos Medina. I'm the president and CEO of the Statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey. We're the voice of the 120,000 Hispanic-owned businesses that call New Jersey home. Happy to kick off an in-person event here with EDA. When I got up this morning and I put in my nav, it said it'd take an hour to get here. And as I got on the road, it soon said 2 hours, but it rerouted me and I got here on time. But it reminds me of the tools that we once didn't have. Years ago, I would have printed out a MapQuest and I would have gone the wrong way and I would still be on the road. So those tools helped get me here today. And it's a perfect analogy to be here with the EDA, who really has a great toolbox for all of the entrepreneurs here in New Jersey. And in particular, we enjoy a great partnership and collaboration with the EDA at the Statewide Hispanic Chamber, whether it be through the EV program. Hopefully you signed up for our bonding readiness program to help you get bonded and be able to bid on larger projects. But this partnership really is part of the tools that members of the Hispanic Chamber have access to. So it's important that you utilize them, especially when you're dealing with partners that have a good heart and believe in the Hispanic community and they know the numbers. I'll repeat some of the numbers that came out from the Latino Donor Collaborative recently. They said that in New Jersey, Hispanic GDP, the gross domestic product, what Hispanic consumers spend in New Jersey is $97 billion a year. The 5th largest Hispanic economy in the United States. So again, it's smart business for your board of directors to look Hispanic and have Hispanic board members, your C-suite and your vendor spend. I was at BNY Mellon last night speaking, and they were talking about their commitment to diverse vendor spend. And that's something that, again, EDA believes in, evidenced by all the collaboration that we do with them and that our members have been able to do with EDA. So again, great leadership by Tim Sullivan, Ty Cooper, Jermaine, everybody that's here. Alberto, thank you again for your friendship and for being part of our familia. And I'll kick it off to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Great. Good morning, everybody. And thank you, Carlos, for your great partnership, but also for those kind words about us and our team. It's an honor to be with everybody as we kind of wrap up Hispanic Heritage Month. Great to be doing this presentation, this event. And sorry, I can't be there in person, at least, to showcase all those tools and all those resources that Carlos was describing. You know, under Governor Murphy's leadership, the EDA has really broadened how we think about comprehensive economic development, how we think about supporting communities, how we think about diversity and inclusion in all of our programs. Again, whether that's programs that are focused sort of exclusively or directly on the Hispanic Latino community, or whether that's programs that benefit everybody, but we're working really hard to make sure that this outreach is happening. I think a great example of that is the micro business loan program, and Carlos and Luis and others at the chamber, for as long as I've known them, have been really forceful and smart and thoughtful and friendly, but forceful advocates for the idea that micro businesses are really important, and it's sort of an underappreciated part of the New Jersey economy. Something like 90% of all the Black and Latino owned businesses in New Jersey are some form of micro business. So when we talk about targeting and focusing on micro businesses, we're really talking about focusing on a diverse economic development strategy. We just launched a program last week where we took 2,000 applications in from micro businesses to support them with low interest loan capital. More than 50% of those applicants identify as minority owned in some form or fashion, about 35% women owned, a little less than 2% veteran owned. Let's say that number a little higher, but broadly speaking, a good representation of, or a good demonstration of, again, when we're talking about targeting micro businesses, why we're talking about it, because it really means reaching deeply into our Hispanic and Latino owned small businesses or Black owned small businesses as well. We're thrilled with the partnership that we have with Carlos and Luis and the team at the Chamber, whether it's on the small business bonding readiness program, which is a game changer, or whether it's on a variety of programs along the way that we're deeply appreciative of their helping us to get the word out here. So again, as we head into the last couple of days here of Hispanic Heritage Month, really thrilled to be joining by so many great colleagues telling you about all the programs we have, because we work here every day and we work on these programs every day, and it's hard enough for us to keep track of them and understand them all. So want to make sure we're trying to provide as much information as we can for all these great programs, because a great program is useless if nobody knows about it, and if everybody doesn't have the opportunity to participate in them. So with that, we got much more important things to do than hear from me. So I'll start letting my colleagues run through all the various programs and agendas we're going to talk through. And I think the next speaker up is the great Michelle Bowden, who's our Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, who joined us a couple years ago and is a rock star and doing a great job driving on so many different initiatives, including, doing things like we're doing today. So Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you for those kind words, as always. I just wanted to take a brief moment to just thank the Chamber, Luis, Carlos, as Tim says, you are family, and we, are so proud of the partnerships and just the relationship that we have established and, you fortified with the Chamber and with your members. I want to thank everybody for being in the room today. I hear we have something like over 100 folks that are there, which is amazing. We have folks that are joining us virtually, and we are just so ecstatic to be able to spend this time with you. We have our colleagues that have all great stuff to talk about today, and I'm hoping that we get some interaction from the crowd as well, just so that we can hear some of the questions that you have about our programs. As Tim said, although we're really busy working on these programs internally at EDA, we still we want to make sure that these programs are getting out to you and that we're getting the feedback from you as well. So please enjoy the presentation. Our colleagues, I call them subject matter experts in the presentations that they're going to make for you today, and are ready to take questions, to answer questions, to clarify points, and to, again, make sure that you are getting the the breadth and the meat of what these programs are all about. So we thank you. We thank you once again. Enjoy the presentation. And unfortunately, I can't be in the room with you, but you're in good hands with Jermaine and with Kyle. And we're here. We're ready.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Paul Seppi. I'm the Vice President of Tax Credits and Finance here at the NJEDA. I want to talk to you briefly about a program that's meant for real estate developers or the real estate development community. Certainly in the 8 to 10 minutes that I have, I'm unable to really fully dive too deep into the project or program, but certainly we've got folks that can talk you through it, and I'd be happy to address any questions that folks have. Kyle, if you can, thank you. The program's established under the Economic Recovery Act, which most folks, or a bunch of the programs that you hear about today were built out of, and really focuses on, not just this program, but most of the programs focus on strengthening communities throughout the state. The program is meant to help projects that have a financial need and a gap in what would be their resources for a project. And we'll talk a little bit about how that winds up working in the mechanics of that. It's available for both commercial, industrial, and residential projects, which is pretty exciting in itself. And we've also built into this program, as you see on the chart, that it's a successor program to a prior program that was the ERC program that was available for a number of years. It also includes some financial protections to ensure that the state is getting the most benefit out of a project and a developer that they can. And it also includes, which is new to this program and a sister program, an opportunity to provide local benefits, community benefits as part of the agreements that we'll sign with the developer. So it's all exciting, and I'll get into that a little bit as well. Program itself shares a $1.1 billion allocation, which is a lot of money, with a sister program, the Emerge, which is meant for job creation to attract corporate clients to the project. In most situations, the program will allow for up to 45% of project costs, up to 50% in certain areas, and then again up to 60% if a program or project development is providing residential units in partnership with our low-income housing tax credit program, not ours, but the state's program, which is run by the HMFA, the Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency, excuse me. Allows for large-scale projects as well, mega redevelopment areas that are greater than $100 million in project costs. There are other criteria that go along with that. We won't see many of those as we look to work through the state, but we do anticipate, as there are a couple that are in the hopper, to be able to advance and move forward. The mechanics of the program work very similar. There's a couple nuances on a transformative project, but again, those are for larger scaled type situations. It's a tax credit based program. So depending upon, when I referenced the 45 or 50 or 60% of costs, those are not cash that's offered back to the developer. The award is paid via tax credits upon the completion of a project, and that'd be over a 10-year period of time. So for argument's sake, someone received a $10 million award. Once the project is built and completed, they'd receive $1 million a year for the subsequent 10 years. As with most of the authorities programs, prevailing wage must be done, construction must be done in accordance with prevailing wage. And this program, as well as a couple of others, the building services, the ongoing maintenance of a facility needs to also be done in compliance with prevailing wage requirements as the facility continues to operate. And then I mentioned a little bit, touch base initially on the community benefits agreement. For any project greater than $10 million, which will be a majority of them, the developer will need to enter into a community benefits agreement. What does that mean? That means there's stakeholder interest in the host municipality. The local administration will need to establish an evaluation committee to negotiate with a developer and ensure that the municipality is getting everything that it can out of a developer within reason, of course. That could mean a new park, it could mean additional sidewalks, it could mean improvements to a school or a firehouse or something of that nature. The authority, although ultimately approves the agreement, does not partake in the negotiations of that agreement. So a lot of times a developer will have baked into its redevelopment agreement certain requirements that the city wants to have. That may or may not, depending upon how that was established, satisfy that agreement. But as part of the law, and the administration wanted to ensure that municipalities were getting something in return for hosting a project as well. We talk about up to a certain number of costs or a number of dollars, depending upon the location of a project, really drives the percentage and the dollar amount that we'd be able to go up into. Because, that up to amount is really based upon what the gap in the financing is on the project. Generally, there's two forms of gaps that we see. Either a gap in the capital stack. It costs $20 million to build a project. You only have 15, you need 5, right? That's the easy one, so to speak, to be able to calculate. But there's also a gap in what might be the return, as a developer needs to have a 20% equity contribution to a project. For any developer that looks to put in equity into a project, they're going to want some form of return. We all do. We put money in the bank, we expect a return back on some of that information or on some of that investment. Most times, a lot of the projects have a what would be considered to be a return gap because the project won't yield enough return for that developer to make that investment. So we will look to subsidize the return so that the developer will make that investment into a project and ultimately build it. If a project yields a return without an incentive that's greater than what would be reasonably acceptable, they wouldn't receive an incentive, right? So if someone is looking to make a $10 million investment into a project and it would only yield a 3% return, but the market says you should be able to make a 10% return as given the associated risks that are with the project, we would look to fill that 7% gap, so to speak, in their return with the subsidy to help offset that gap so that they would get to build that project. It's all about geography, right? Where are you located in the state would determine your ability to whether you're eligible, whether the project is eligible or not, and then 2, to what level of assistance would you be eligible for? We've got a great mapping tool on our website. Here's a screenshot of what it is. It's and I'm sure we'll get the information out there, but njeda.com/aspire. Click on the button for mapping tool, punch in the address of your site, and it will bring up this pretty color-coded map to let you know what your designations are. Certainly in the Hudson County area, that wouldn't be an issue. Most areas there would be eligible, as that's primarily a planning area 1. A lot of the state is a planning area 2, so depending upon, again, where you're looking to build would determine the eligibility. In partnership with, the state does not want to facilitate any project just because a developer wants to build it. We want to ensure that the local municipality, the local jurisdiction, supports the program and the project. So the developer will need to go to city council and the local administration, obtain support, because we don't want to, like I said, overstep the local jurisdictions and require folks to do something that they may not support, right? So outside of the community benefits agreement, so that's one level of support. We want to ensure that there's full support from the local municipality. There are sustainability requirements as it's built into the program. I referenced earlier already the prevailing wage and affirmative action. So I don't think I included that aspect of things, but we want to ensure that there's appropriate opportunities for everyone to work on job sites. And then the project itself, there are green building standards to ensure that we're building sustainable, strong projects that will be, I'll say, kinder to the environment. And that's important as we look to move forward. Talked about the community benefits agreement. I don't want to beat that up anymore, as Michelle's going to tell me I went over. So, but again, for any project more than 10%, $10 million or more, we'll need to have full community engagement. And I think that's a very important criteria in the program, something that we're all pretty proud about, because we're ensuring that municipalities receive the benefits as well, right? So there's calculations that are on the next slide that a commercial project needs to provide enough benefit to the state before we're able to incent. That's great, and that's a state level benefit. How about the local folks? And that's where the community benefits agreement comes into play. One nice nuance about the community benefits agreement is that a developer has the ability to include that in some of their eligible costs. So we'll help offset some of those local needs that are required, but a great opportunity to establish a great footprint in the community. Okay. Talk a little bit about net benefit. A commercial project needs to have at least 150% or better, 185 in most of the states. That means for every dollar that the state gives a developer, they need to provide at least $1.50 or $1.85 and benefit back to New Jersey. So it's a great opportunity to ensure that the state is getting good bang for their buck, so to speak. A couple of different projects are exempt from that requirement if it's a healthcare facility or a provider of fresh foods. Okay. Matt Bottenheimer's on vacation this week. That's why I'm filling in. He's our main primary contact for the program. I'll be around for a little bit if there's any questions in the chat, but certainly please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love an opportunity to have a discussion with y'all.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Himmel. I'm the Senior Advisor of Childcare, and I'm here to talk to you about the Childcare Facilities Improvement Program, Phase 1. So in December of 2020, the EDA issued a request for information on how to best support the childcare sector. As I'm sure many of you experienced firsthand, December of 2020 was at the height of the pandemic, and issues around childcare had become very much in the forefront of many families. And so we issued this request for information to get a sense of the kind of support that was needed by the childcare industry. And a couple themes emerged through that process. Number one, and again, I think a lot of us felt this firsthand, is that childcare is an economic development imperative and a workforce enabler. If parents don't have reliable, quality childcare options for their children, they're not going to be able to participate in the economy and do their jobs well. The second theme that came up is that childcare businesses are small business owners, and primarily women-owned businesses, and so there's a need there to provide some business education and training so that they are running viable, fiscally viable businesses and contributing to the economy. The truth is, and I've worked in the childcare field for a very long time, there is a significant struggle and lack of funding and sources of capital for childcare providers to support their businesses, to grow their businesses, and maintain their businesses in a way that makes them a strong business. And part of that is many of these facilities where childcare is being offered are in desperate need of upgrades. Again, without the funding there to replace a leaky roof, which we all know can be very expensive, Band-Aid efforts are put in place, and it becomes sometimes a domino effect of other issues that grow the issues around health and safety at a childcare setting. So with all of that, the EDA has had an opportunity to grow its childcare portfolio and build on Governor Murphy's strategy to support the childcare sector and the recognition of what a crucial role it plays in the economic recovery. And so we're going to be talking about one specific program, but wanted to give a snapshot of all the funding that's available to the childcare sector and all the ways in which the EDA is contributing. So it started with fiscal year 21 funding for small business emergency grants. This was at the height of COVID. And so 1,300 childcare providers had access to $10 million that was set aside specifically for that sector to support all the needs that they were experiencing at that time. What we're going to talk about today is some of this additional funding for childcare facilities improvements. As I just mentioned, it's such a critical piece of maintaining these businesses. And so we're going to be talking about this $54.5 million that's been set aside to do that. And there's additional funding. And so in total, we have over $100 million that's going to go towards the childcare sector and really strengthen it for the business owners in New Jersey. Next, please. So the New Jersey Child Care Facilities program was born out of the Child Care Revitalization Fund, which allocated $100 million of ARP funding to do a variety of different supports for the child care sector, with $54.5 million going towards these facilities improvements. The program itself is to provide grants to New Jersey licensed child care providers to do both exterior and interior facility improvements and increase the quality of early learning environments. For this first phase, we will be releasing $15 million with the ability to go up to $25 million, depending on the need and interest from providers. Next, please. So the grants are for projects between $50,000 and $200,000 to do both interior and exterior upgrades. When we talk about a project, There is an extensive list of eligible uses that you can find on our website. But when we talk about a project, we want our childcare providers to think about the full scope of needs of their facility improvements and not limit themselves to just doing one specific improvement, but to really utilize all of the funding that's available to them. So they may decide that they need to repair the roof that's been leaking for years, but they want to put in energy efficient windows. They may want to do some new flooring around the center and perhaps do some repairs to their playground. They will be able to do a variety of different projects, and collectively, if those costs range between $50,000 and $200,000, then they'd be eligible to apply for our funding. The grants will need to cover the full cost of the improvements, so there is no match, and providers will not be able to blend funding together to do these projects. So the requests for the dollars need to be inclusive of the entire project that they want to complete. Grants will cover both hard costs, and up to 20% can be used for soft costs, which are things like architect fees, permit fees, shipping, and any other sort of environmental assessments that may need to be done. So 20% of their total costs could go towards that kind of work. And then there is an opportunity for them to apply for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which would be enhancements to the facilities, improvements, if they need some materials in the form of cubbies or new tables for the children, and things like that. The grants are also going to account for up to 15% of unanticipated cost overruns. Anyone who's done a construction project knows that oftentimes things get a little more expensive than we first anticipate, and so we wanted to ensure that if those needs are unexpected, additional improvements need to be considered in order to complete all of the work at the facility, that there was funding set aside and those requests could be made to the EDA. Phase one, again, you saw there's a lot of money here for this kind of work, which is very exciting. This is just the first phase that we're releasing, and it's only open to licensed childcare centers. For anyone who isn't familiar with the different kind of childcare options for parents, New Jersey has what they call a mixed delivery system. So there are licensed centers where children attend. There are also registered family childcare homes where people are providing care out of their homes. And there's a variety of other care alternatives for parents. And so we want to be able to support the mixed delivery system, but in this first phase, we are limiting it to centers, and then in future phases, we'll open it up to some of those other provider types. The other criteria for eligibility is that these childcare centers must either currently enroll or have enrolled in the past 12 months one child receiving a state subsidy through the Department of Human Services Child Care Assistance Program. And then the last piece that we want to mention is that 40% of the funds available for this program are set aside for applicants located in Opportunity Zone eligible census tracts. I'm just going to run through a few more eligibility options for folks. As I mentioned, the providers must be licensed by the Department of Children and Families. That's the state agency that monitors the child care sector and ensures that certain requirements are being met in order to hold this license. They also need to be licensed by the Department of Children and Families as of June 4th, 2021 in order to be eligible. And they need to offer care for at least 6 hours a day and for at least 10 months a year. So we're looking for programs that are essentially running at least a school year program. I mentioned the requirement to serve children that are receiving a subsidy. Both for-profits and nonprofits are eligible. Applicants can either own or lease their spaces. And applicants will also need to commit to enroll to Grow New Jersey Kids, which is a system called a quality rating and improvement system, which actually exists in every state across the country. And it's a system to support and measure levels of quality in childcare programs that includes coaching and technical assistance, professional development, and financial incentives for providers to maintain certain levels of quality, which are directly related to strong child outcomes and support children's development and learning and growth. Applicants also have to commit to maintaining their license at the facility location where the improvement is going to be done for at least 4 years. They need to be in good standing with several state agencies, including Labor and Workforce Development, Environmental Protection, the Division of Taxation, Children and Families, and the Department of Human Services. And applicants are going to be limited to 1 application per location and 2 applications per employer identification number. And as I mentioned, perhaps in future phases, family child care providers will be, they will be eligible for funding in future phases, excuse me. And we're really looking at this first phase as a pilot and a way to build a strong program so that when we get ready to roll out future phases, we'll have a lot of learnings and experiences from this first phase, make the adjustments that we need to in terms of the program delivery, and then make funding available, like I said, to a variety of other provider types, so that the full mixed delivery system of childcare in New Jersey is supported by this funding. Next, please. So our applications are currently under development and will be available this month. We're working on all that technology behind the scenes. And so anyone who's interested in applying or more information about our program can visit our website here. And we have a suite of resources for childcare providers to prepare for the application. There's a lot of work that needs to be done ahead of time, including, and I'm sorry that I didn't mention this earlier, the other critical piece in all of this is that the work that's being done, the construction work, the hard costs that are being done, as a part of this program must be completed by a Department of Labor, Public Works registered contractor. And so we've been working really closely with the Department of Labor to inform these registered contractors of our program, to garner some interest, and make it as easy as possible and accessible as possible for providers to connect with these contractors in order to get the work done, because they do need to be identified as part of the application process. So with that, I would thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to our program, and I will believe I'm going to hand it over to Jermaine.
Good morning, everyone. We thank you for making the value-based decision to join us today. Thank you to everyone that made it out in person. You braved the elements, road closures, et cetera, to be here. And thank you to everyone that's tuned in with us online. Thank you, as always, to the Chamber. We want to thank Carlos, we want to thank Louis. We want to thank everyone with the Chamber for all of their hard work and always being there for us as a strategic partner to make sure that the things that we're trying to deliver to our business community gets there. So thank you, guys. I just want to take exactly 5 minutes, and you can time me, to mention the Bonding Readiness Program. We're very excited, again, to have the Statewide Hispanic Chamber participate with us this year as a strategic partner. The program has been running since 2019, and as of this year, this chamber has been added to make sure that we reach more of our population and bring these benefits to small businesses that need this type of support and expertise in building their businesses up. So the Bonding Readiness Program is about helping you in all of these areas that you see: finance, operations, contract law, about really building your capacity to go after more contracts. There's a lot learned in these programs that a lot of businesses were not aware of. I've talked to businesses that have been through this program, and they found out that they were being misinformed at some levels. They learned a lot of stuff that they thought was right, and they found out that they were going about it completely wrong to build their capacity and go after government contracts and other opportunities. So this program is an outstanding way to keep your business moving forward. This chamber's cohort will start next week on October 19th. We're always taking applications. So we're going to be involved with doing this with the chamber for the next 2 years or so. And we want to help as many businesses as we can. This program, it does not cost you anything but your time to participate, which is important. The EDA does sponsor a scholarship to make sure that there's no cost to you, just the outline of giving your time and dedication to come in and learn the material. It is a fantastic program. I sit in on the classes. I learn stuff as well that I was not aware of prior to just listening and learning, and also looking at the interaction between the participants in the class. So it's a wonderful opportunity for you to learn, to also possibly build some business to business, meet other businesses. There's always an opportunity, as well as some people in the room. You may need someone else that's participating in the class and be able to make a connection that way. So we implore you to jump in. We still have some room left, and we will be taking rolling admissions. The cohort starts on the 19th for the Hispanic Chamber. Please find myself. My information is attached to this presentation. If not, find one of the wonderfully talented participants that is involved with the program, Dr. Jairo Borra, Daniela, Danilo, all of the people that you know that you go to often to say, hey, I need some help. How do we get in these lanes? How can you help us? Time and time again, you call upon the chamber and they deliver for you. And this is another opportunity. So please take advantage of it. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to grow. And that is my time. Thank you.
I'm Christina Fuentes, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the support that EDA has provided. Not only, during COVID, we've launched various programs that I'm sure many of you tapped into, but Carlos was great at also helping to really get the Hispanic Chamber members aware of all the resources we provide. But as you can see, we've done a lot in the past couple of years, and a lot of these programs, because they were federally funded, really had a lot of requirements around demonstrating need. So I can get the next slide, please. As you can see, we supported 94,000 businesses, which equated to $710 million worth of support. And as COVID has kind of turned off the funding, essentially, and the needs that are around the COVID funding, we're getting more into our recovery focused funding. And then if I can get the next slide, next one. we have our Main Street Recovery Fund. So this was through an appropriation through our leadership. Tim and Governor Murphy have been very, strongly advocating for small businesses, that we got our first $150 million appropriation to really support small businesses. So with this Main Street Recovery Fund, which was under the Economic Recovery Act, we were able to essentially create various products. So we did our rules to really form products that supported grants to small businesses, which you were going to learn about today, loans to micro businesses, which Tim has highlighted, the micro business loan, and then also resources for other lenders as well too, who can then also utilize the funding to provide their own loans to micro businesses and also technical assistance as well too. Next slide. So the rules allowed us to really essentially create the small business lease grant and the small business improvement grant, which the lease grants provide basically an initial grant at approval of 20% of annual lease payments, and then a second one 12 months later to really help you kind of maintain the cost of moving into a new space. Carla Morrison from Small Business Services is going to highlight the details of both of these, but also I just want to add into the fact that as you lease new space, you can utilize the improvement grant. So most people who take and lease new space will then need to make improvements, and we will reimburse you 50% of those costs up to $50,000 as well too. You're also going to hear from Nye Marshall as well, who will highlight some of, as I mentioned, our other partners that are leveraging the Main Street appropriation. You're going to hear from CDFIs and community development corporations that are also launching their own programs, and you can reach out to them as well to see about the resources that they offer. Again, for micro businesses, which meets the definition of 10 full-time employees or less, making less than 1.5 million in revenue. You will also hear about our traditional lending products that Daryl's going to essentially highlight. I want people to realize that as you move and you're making business and you're looking to potentially buy a building, or you have equipment that you need to purchase and you can utilize that for collateral, EDA is still a resource. We are here for you. So regardless if you just need advice or guidance, I say all the time, we don't work on commission. So we're happy here to be here and help you work through those problems or initiatives. And if you feel like, this is a resource, we partner up with our premier lenders, as Daryl is going to go through as well too. And we're happy to make those introductions to banks when necessary too, but how we can be a partner to your lending initiatives throughout the life of a business owner as well too. So I'm going to kick it over to Carla, who is essentially going to dig into the details of the grants so people know how to apply for them.
Thank you, Christina. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with you. I'm Carla Morrison, and I am a small business liaison here. And so we're going to talk about our grants. And in reference to our lease grant, that is a $10 million appropriation, and 40% of that has been set aside for opportunity zone eligible census tracts. Now, this grant is to offset lease payments. So as long as your lease is a minimum of 5-year term, you can be eligible for this program. And it does come within 2 payment disbursements. The first disbursement is at grant agreement, which is 20% of the annual lease payments. And then 12 months later, there will be a second disbursement of 20%. And if you as a leasee has multiple locations, it is 1 application per location. All right, and that does have an approval fee of $100 that is due at the time of the execution of your grant agreement. Next slide, please. Now, in order to be eligible for this, it does have to be a commercial building that you are leasing, and you do have to meet SBA's definition of a small business, which is determined by your NAICS code. We will ask you for a current tax clearance certificate, which on our website, we actually give you instructions and a link to go get that tax clearance certificate. We do need you to be in good standing with the Department of Labor and the Department of Environmental Protection, and you will certify at the time of application that you are not in default of any other NJEDA or state assistance. Next slide. Now, for the lease eligibility, your lease does have to include a space of at least 250 square feet, and we will incentivize up to 10,000 square feet. So if it is more, that is okay. The grant will go up to 10,000 square feet. It does have to be a new lease within 1 year of application. So your lease, when you signed it, it cannot be more than 1 year old. If you are doing an amendment and adding 250 square feet, then it does not have to be a new lease, but you do have to be adding space of at least 250 square feet and extending your space. It does have to include the first floor, which is street level. So if it is multiple floors, that's okay, but it does, your space does have to include street level space. And we do it based on market rate. So your lease does have to be at market rate. Next slide, please. Some exclusions are that you cannot terminate an existing lease in order to qualify for this one. And you cannot be in default of any lease payments during the time that the grant agreement term is. Any high-tech and business incubators or nonprofit facilities are not eligible, but the operators of incubators are eligible. And the landlords cannot have ownership interest in the business or the tenant. And you do have to get a certification from your landlord saying that everything is in order. So we will give you the application and give you the certification that your landlord will have to fill out. Next slide, please. Now, in regards to our improvement grant, that is a $15 million appropriation. Again, 40% has been set aside for Opportunity Zone eligible census tracts. And this is for 50% reimbursement of projects that you have done to make your space better and to make it for yourself. So this is interior and exterior renovations that you do. It's the purchase and the installation of new furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And the minimum for this application is $5,000. Now, if you do have multiple locations, it is one application per EIN. So your EIN, and you will spread it across your locations if you do have multiple locations. And this as well has an approval fee of $100 that is not due until you're signing your agreement with us. Next slide, please. Now, a little bit about the eligibility of the projects that you do. They do have to be completed. So all of your improvements and the purchases all have to be completed prior to application, as this is a reimbursement grant. So everything has to be completed. It cannot be completed more than 2 years of your application date. So keep that in mind. It has to be within 2 years that all the work was done within the application date. And you're actually going to certify at that time of application that all the work has been completed. And what we're going to ask of you is documentation that the work has been completed and paid for. And what we use for that documentation is invoices for all the work and for all the purchases. And then we're going to need proof of payment, and that can come in the form of your statements highlighted of those transactions or canceled checks. And just keep in mind, again, that it does have to be a minimum of $5,000. So you want to do all your projects and then do your application, and the minimum is $5,000. Also, keep in mind, home-based businesses can do this grant as well. And so that can be for the reimbursement of and purchase of furniture, fixtures, and equipment as well, and the installation of those things. As the applicant, you are responsible for your local improvements. That's your zoning and your building permits, things of that nature. You will have to do that, and your landlord will have to do a landlord certification that he approves of all the improvements that you're doing. If your projects are over $50,000, you're going to be subject to green building standards for any lighting and mechanical work. And again, we'll have your landlord give us a certification that everything is within his approvals. Next slide, please. Now, in order to take advantage of our Main Street recovery funds, there's a couple requirements, and that consists of wage requirements. So as the employer, you do have to pay your employees the greater of $15 an hour or 120% of minimum wage, and that is for full-time and part-time employees. And we will monitor this annually, and we'll do that by collecting your WR-30s or your payroll reports, any equivalent documents to your payroll report. Now, if you're going to take advantage of our small business lease grant, you do have to commit to being in the space for at least 5 years. And in order to take advantage of our improvement grant, if the grant is less than $25,000, then you have to commit to being in the space for at least 2 years. If it's more than $25,000, then you do have to commit to being in the space for at least 4 years. Next slide. All right, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Nye Marshall, and she's going to go over the resources for micro businesses.
Thank you, Carla, and good morning to everyone. It's good to be here today, along with my colleagues, to present to you the variety of NJEDA products and resources geared to help the growth and success of our business community. My name is Nye Marshall. I am the program manager for business banking. We had such a great response to the Main Street Micro Business Loan product launch last week, with 2,000 applications submitted and with more than half of the applications submitted by applicants who identified as minority. So our team is eager to get our micro businesses the funding they need, and we now look forward to processing the applications. As we work through the review process, applicants will be able to sign into the portal and check their application status as we review them. So now that the Main Street Micro Business Loan application is closed, we want to make sure that you are aware of additional resources available to micro businesses. To date, the EDA has approved $11.7 million under the Main Street Lenders Grant to eligible lenders who have at least a 10-year history of assisting micro businesses. These lenders will use the funds to supplement or create their own loan programs to provide and also provide technical assistance to New Jersey micro businesses. Eligible lenders include community development financial institutions, minority depository institutions, economic development corporations, or other eligible lenders. A micro business is a business with 10 or fewer full-time employees and less than 1.5 million in annual gross revenues. That is based on the last federal tax return that the business is required to file. The lenders that the EDA approves for this funding will provide flexible working capital loans, which can include loan amounts between $10,000 and $100,000, no prepayment penalties, in terms up to 10 years with no principal or interest payments for at least the first 12 months after the loan closing. Also, 40% of the total funding for the lending grant will be allocated to businesses located in opportunity zones. The funding also provided to each lender will also support technical assistance services specifically for micro businesses so that the business is prepped and positioned to qualify for lending. Examples of technical assistance includes QuickBooks training, e-commerce services, loan packaging assistance, credit repair services, business plan preparation, and many more. On the next slide. We have provided a list of approved lenders here who are approved for the funding under the NJEDA Main Street Lenders Grant. These businesses or businesses who are actually interested can actually directly reach out to these entities to get more information about how to apply for a micro business loan or learn more about technical assistance services. Each of these entities listed here will offer a working capital loan that will include flexible terms, no prepayment penalty, and no principal or interest payment for 12 months. You will also see the website for each lender, where you will find more detailed information about the micro business loans and technical assistance offered. And on the next slide, should you have any questions about what we've reviewed today, you can visit our website at njeda.com or email smallbusinessservices@njeda.com. And I will turn over the presentation to my colleague, Daryl Spence.
Hey, thank you, Nye. Good morning, everyone. My name is Daryl Spence, and I am a Senior Business Development Officer for New Jersey EDA based out of the Gateway Building in Newark. Next slide, please. So this morning, I'm going to talk to you about 3 of our loan programs: the Small Business Fund, the Premier Lender Program, and the Direct Loan Program. But I want to take the liberty before that to acknowledge the New Jersey Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for being awarded the Large Chamber of the Year at the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce presentation in Arizona. So congratulations to the Chamber and all of its members for having that prestigious acknowledgement. So I'll go into my program now. The Small Business Fund is the first program that I will talk about. Here you will see that it's for small businesses in operation at least 1 year with revenue of $3 million. So this gives you an opportunity that if you've been in business for at least 1 year and reporting a profit, this program may be able to help support your financial needs. When we look at the eligibility, you'll see that it's a need for collateral to secure the loan. It is a $300 application fee at the time of application, a 0.5% commitment fee, and a 0.5% closing fee. Those fees are due at the time of commitment and at the time of closing. The only upfront fee is the $300 application fee, which is non-refundable. You must meet a 1.1 for-profit business and a 1.0 for nonprofit business of a debt service coverage, which simply means for every dollar of debt you have, you must have $1.10, and for nonprofits, $1 to cover that debt. With this particular program, home-based businesses are not eligible, but as noted in earlier presentations, we do have support for home-based businesses. The benefits here are flexible interest rates. You may be able to borrow up to $500,000 for fixed assets, which include real estate and/or equipment, and up to $500,000 for working capital, which is a working capital term loan, which will still need to be supported by collateral. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to talk about our Premier Lenders program, which is a partnership program that we work with many New Jersey banks. The New Jersey EDA partners with over 24 banks for the Premier program, offering low-cost financing through a variety of small business lending programs. Premier lender status allows New Jersey EDA to partner with banks to be more responsive to the needs of New Jersey businesses through a streamlined loan approval. The New Jersey EDA makes a credit decision within 7 to 10 days once all of the information needed to make the decision are received, and there is a quick turnaround for approval to closing, provides a strong incentive for borrowers, while New Jersey EDA exposure by participating in or guaranteeing portions of a loan reduces the lender's risk. Next slide, please. Here, for the Premier Lenders program, you will note eligibility and benefits. I'll talk eligibility first. You have to be in business for at least 2 full years, whereas you see with the Small Business Fund, it was 1 year. A commitment to creation or retention of one new full-time job for every $65,000 of New Jersey EDA exposure within a 2-year period. And that simply means, for example, if you borrow $1 million for that new job creation, that would be about 15 jobs. Once again, the debt service coverage for profit business and for nonprofit businesses are the same as there were in the Small Business Fund of 1.1 or 1.0. We are able to do 100% loan to value for real estate on some occasions and 90% for typically new equipment. The benefits of the program, once again, access to low-cost financing that includes New Jersey EDA loan participation and/or guarantee and lines of credit guarantee. Financing can be used for fixed assets or term working capital. Once again, attractive interest rates and terms. So with this program, dollar amounts up to $2 million for fixed assets, up to $750,000 for working capital, and then up to $750,000 for lines of credit guarantees from the bank. And I'm going to show you a list of some of the Premier lenders. So if you look here, you'll see many of the local banks, in and around New Jersey that support and participate with the New Jersey Premier Lender Program. All right, next I'm going to talk about the direct loan program. Now, the direct loan program has some similarities to the Premier Lender Program, but with this program, if there was a bank that is not a Premier Lender, we could help support the lending of a small business with this direct loan program. So once again, you can see in business for 2 years and reporting a profit. Also, the job creation, as you see, is the same, $65,000 of exposure. Then you need to create one new job or retention of one new job over a 2-year period. The need for collateral to secure the loan. But unlike the Premier Lender Program, where you see the benefit of the commitment fee and the closing fee, the loan fee here is $1,000, but there is a commitment fee of 0.875 and a closing fee of 0.875, where with the Premier Lender Program, there is an application fee of $1,000 and a $750 closing fee. So the total fee is $1,750, whereas you can see the direct loan may be more expensive. You must meet the debt service coverage once again, and these products are not eligible for home-based businesses. Once again, the benefits are flexible interest rates, up to $2 million for fixed assets for real estate or equipment, and up to $750,000 for working capital. We'll still need collateral. But unlike the Premier Lender Program, the direct loan program does not offer a loan guarantee for a line of credit. So that is also another difference. Amortizations can be from 5 years for working capital. And if it's secured by real estate, we may be able to go a little longer than 5 years for the working capital, and 10 years for equipment transactions, and 20 years for real estate transactions. And we have gone to 25 years for real estate transactions. So that concludes my presentation here. You can see our contact information. These are the members of our team that work with NJEDA to help support these programs. And next, I'm going to put you into the film industry. For all of those who have aspirations for Hollywood, I have Steve. Steve?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Steve Gorelick with the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission. We work very closely. We're within the Department of State, within the Business Action Center, within the Department of State. We work very closely with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority on the program I'm about to describe. The EDA offers a very robust financial incentive program for filmmakers, which has helped to make New Jersey an extremely attractive state for film and television production. Last year, revenue from production rose to $500 million, and thousands of jobs were created on the projects that were done here. 2022 will end up being an even better year. It's been a spectacular year for production. In fact, production has been robust since 2018 and since this program began. Productions are shooting like seemingly everywhere in the state. You may have noticed, north to south. And the program I'm now going to describe has had over 115 applications to date, which is amazing. The New Jersey Film and Digital Media Tax Credit Program was passed by the legislature and signed into law in 2018, and it was enhanced in 2021 and 2022 with changes that made it even more attractive to the entertainment industry. There are 2 ways for production to qualify for this program. One, you need to spend 60% of your budget here in the state, less post-production costs, or alternatively, the other way to qualify is to spend in excess of $1 million qualified production costs. That first way of qualifying that I described to you allows lower budget productions to take advantage of the program because we do assist independent productions and independent producers who have budgets of only a few $100,000 or even less, particularly local filmmakers who are just starting out in the industry. The Motion Picture Commission and the New Jersey EDA are both looking to nurture and encourage young, talented talented people. The second way of qualifying allows more seasoned, well-budgeted producers to shoot either some or all of their multi-million-dollar productions here in New Jersey. As I'm sure you know, feature films can have budgets as high as $100 million or even $200 million. And a full season of a television show or network cable or streaming can have a budget as high as $100 million or more. We've had projects like that here in New Jersey, in fact, this very year. And a lot of independent features we have in the $2, $3, $5, $7, $10 million range. That's a real sweet spot for us as well. We've had a lot of those this year. The projects generally have to be scripted features or television shows, although variety shows, competition shows, and documentary features can also qualify. If the production meets the aforementioned standards, the production companies can receive tax credits of 35% of their labor costs, meaning for cast and crew, 30% of their qualified purchases, rentals, and services used within the 30-mile radius of Manhattan, and 35% beyond the 30-mile radius of Manhattan. You get a 5% uplift. We're trying to make sure that filmmaking takes place throughout the entire state, not just in the general New York area, which is a popular area, obviously, for filmmaking. Cast and crew salaries are subject to standard withholding. 1099s, independent contractors are subject to 6.37% withholding. All vendors must be registered in New Jersey and have a New Jersey tax ID number in order for the payments to them to qualify for the tax credit program. There are 3 allocations to the tax credit program, and I'll review them very briefly for you. You see them on the slide. The first allocation we call the legacy program, the legacy allocation, since it is the first one created and it's existed since 2018. It's a $100 million a year allocation, and producers can apply for it on a project by project basis. That is to say, you're going to make a movie or TV show here. You apply for that single project. The second allocation is called Film Lease Partners, and it's designed to encourage the development of studio and production facilities in New Jersey. This is a $100 million a year allocation, and it will rise to $200 million a year in 2025. Applicants to this program are required to lease 50,000 square feet of studio space for a period of 5 years or more and spend an average of $50 million a year over the course of those 5 years. This allocation looks at projects in the aggregate, so production companies can shoot multiple productions and get tax credits for them to meet the requisite $50 million a year spend in this program. The third allocation is called Studio Partners and was also legislated to encourage studio production. It's currently a $100 million a year allocation. It will rise to $350 million a year in 2025. Production companies are required to lease 250,000 square feet of production space for a period of 10 years. So this is for very big companies who are going to make a significant contribution economically to the state. This allocation has no requisite annual spend and also looks at projects in the aggregate. The particular advantage of this program, though, is that it escalates the above-the-line salary cap for high salaried employees. That's the producers, directors, major stars, the screenwriters who are actually working here. In the other 2 programs, the salaries of above-the-line cast and crew members that I just described is capped at 35% of the first $500,000, because you have some productions where you have, you know, movie stars or directors making $5, 10, 20, $30 million. So we and those in the first 2 programs, you can get 35% tax credit on that amount. This allocation increases that cap depending on how much money a production company spends over the course of 10 years or more. Only 3 of the studio partners incentives will be awarded at this point. Of great significance to all of you, I want to mention is that production companies can receive a 2% diversity bonus on top of all of that if they use a diverse cast and crew, meaning women and minorities. Production companies applying for the diversity bonus must establish their diversity goal beforehand, and they must declare the percentage of the cast and crew that will be diverse, and they must meet that goal. Of equal significance is a recent change in the program made earlier this year with the issuance of new program rules established by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. There'll be an increase in the amount of a tax credit allowed to 4%. There's a 4% bonus, diversity bonus on qualified production expenses if 5% of the cast consists of ethnic minority groups that are underrepresented in film or digital media productions in the U.S. And these cast members have been living in New Jersey for at least the past year and are members of the Actors Union, meaning SAG-AFTRA. Hispanics would certainly qualify under this definition. There's been much written about recently about the underrepresentation of Latino actors in American productions, and programs like this will help to correct that. Lastly, the program offers a tax credit for digital media projects, which could include video games, websites for entertainment purposes, and other media of that type. Companies that qualify get a tax credit for 20% of their digital media production expenses, with a 5% bonus for targeted counties, all of which are in South Jersey. All these allocations have been extended to 2034 as a message to the industry that New Jersey means business, specifically the entertainment business. For more information on this program, you can reach out to Matt Sestrich at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. You can reach out to me at the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission. We have other programs that assist filmmakers that will be of interest as well.
Kyle O'Donnell, Diversity and Inclusion Program Analyst at the NJEDA. Couldn't have planned this much better, 11:15 on the dot for run of the show. So we'll open it up to questions and answers for people in the audience and anybody online.
Yeah, when you were talking about the fixed assets for a building, it's furnishing, furniture, and equipment. Can you define equipment for us? What equipment would qualify for that money?
So if Christina,
Carol?
yeah.
Is that for the
Yeah.
grants?
Right,
Carlos?
is it the grants or the loan?
Yeah,
Yes, for the grants.
yeah. So when we say furniture, fixtures, and equipment, it's essentially equipment that they need to operate their business. So I know sometimes people are equating equipment sometimes with inventory, but it's not. So equipment would be something that's going to be like, you know, a walk-in refrigerator, or a stove, you know, depending on what the business operations are, the equipment can change drastically. So could be a desk, could be a chair. There's a lot of different things too that make up equipment.
Another question from Luis.
Good morning. For the Main Street microloan, we realized that a lot of people apply for 50,000, even if they didn't have gross sales of 50,000. Now, in that case, is the gross sales from the previous year or from this year related with the amount that they can qualify for? Because in that case, no.
No, has nothing to do with it. So the way they can request the amount up to 50, knowing that a micro business, their expenses, right? Like, do you remember the old COVID, like the phase loans that we did, the phase 1 and phase 2, you had to have expenses that you spent within 12 months, right?
Okay.
But micro businesses, their expenses are typically going to be on the smaller side. So we give you that ability to spend it within the 10-year term. So as long as your lease payments or whatever expense, you know, we looked at future expenses, added up into that time frame, you were fine. So it really gives the flexibility to the micro business owner. It had nothing to do with sales or anything like that.
Okay. We just hope that they add more money because a lot of people start calling us. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they could have tapped into the 50,000. I mean, that's what it was there for, right? So it's for very early stage businesses to have some access to capital that is very hard to do. So we were looking for, as long as you were formed 6 months prior to the application, you were eligible for this. And if you have the credit score as well, too. We're not doing traditional underwriting for this. It's really just, you know, to be able to provide that access to capital that, I mean, it's really non-existent for, you know, an early stage business like this. And there's no collateral or guarantees as well too. So, and as you know, it's forgivable after the 5 years, as long as you're making your payments on time and you're still open and operating. So.
All right, we have another question.
Well, that question was answered with the forgivable portion of it. I also want to try to reiterate too that the first year there are no payments made. The first 12 months, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. No interest will accrue and there's no payments that first 12 months. And then beginning a second year. And then just remember, you have to apply for forgiveness as well. So you have to make payments up until we grant the forgiveness. It's going to be in your closing documents as well too. So you'll have that form in your closing documents.
My specific question is, I know the time frame, but like as far as disbursement of those funds, I hadn't seen any information. Like, is that in 25 and 25? Is it up to the?
No, it's when you close, you're gonna get, if you applied for the amount, let's say you went up to 50,000, you applied for that, and you have the documentation that proves those, ties into those expenses.
Okay.
You're gonna be getting your funding at closing. So, and then whatever you applied for would equate to that, right? So we're gonna have a commitment letter that will be emailed to you. It's going to be in Adobe PDF form, so you will sign it electronically. You're going to have your ACH information as well too, which you would upload with that. It comes back to us, we sign it, fully executed agreements are then in the file, and then you move to closing to then go through your full closing process, and then funds are dispersed after that.
Now, I did see where you said, as far as the lenders, you have a list of, I believe, nonprofits. When does that information get disseminated to those individuals so you can reapply? Because I know you opened it in October 6th and it was closing 7. So someone I was working with, they couldn't get in then. So when are you planning on reopening as far as getting them to the individual list of providers for the micro?
Two separate things there. So we have our partners, like our community development financial institutions, that we gave them money to lend out. So Nye shared those slides, and I'm sure the chamber will be sharing those slides to everybody who signed up as well too. So you can reach out to them directly to see, like, to apply for their products that they're offering, and also their technical assistance as well too. But the micro business loan that EDA administers, it's really based upon an appropriation. So, if we can get additional funding from the governor to keep this going, we'll keep doing it. But for right now, we didn't want to keep taking applications because there was an application fee, right? So to me, it wasn't, that's why we turned it off in a faster time frame, because we didn't want to keep taking in fees for something that we didn't have the funding for. So we're hoping that we can get additional funding to support what we received in. But again, to keep it going year from year would be based upon an appropriation we get.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Christina. Any other questions from the audience?
Hello, this is for Steven and the film. So I have a printing promotional business. So we do t-shirt. I'm wearing one of our samples. We do banners, stuff like that. Film, they print a lot of stuff, how can I get in touch with those people or be on a list? So when they want to print t-shirts, sweaters, banners, whatever, that we can be one of those people gets that bid or can apply.
We have just the mechanism for you on our website, www.film.nj.gov. And you can look it up on Google, if you can't jot it down now. We have on our website a production services directory, which you can list your company in, and you can put, any service that you may provide. In this particular case, printing of t-shirts and what have you. You will be listed under that category. If we don't have a category, we'll create the category. And the beautiful thing is, it can be filtered for people who are looking for results. It can be filtered for minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. So you get a nice advantage there. You can do it right online. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. It's steven.gorlick@sos.nj.gov. That's GORELICK. And I'll be happy to talk to you about it and anything else that anyone might be interested in. But we are ready to handle that.
Great, thank you. And one more time, what's the website and email?
The website is www.film.nj.gov.
Okay.
And my email is steven.gorlick@sos.nj.gov.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question for Stephen. For the digital media, do they fund also independent filmmakers, and do they help with the distribution of the film as well?
We have nothing to do with the distribution of the film. As far as do we assist independent filmmakers? Oh, I mean, all the time. It's a tax credit program, and we have independent productions all the time. So, you know, and as I say, the program was created so that we have two different ways of qualifying, and one of them, if you're having low budget, if you have a low budget production, which is under $1 million or a few $100,000, there is a way of qualifying for the program and getting tax credits for that. So absolutely, just give me a call, and I'll be happy to talk to you. Now, you probably would qualify if you're doing films or TV show. You'd probably qualify for the film tax credit rather than the digital media, even though you may be using a digital media. The digital media is more for if you're doing like visual effects, or you're doing websites for entertainment purposes, I mentioned, video games, that sort of thing.
Thank you. I also have another question, but this is just a general business question for the, I think the loans or the grants. Are there plans available for startup businesses who just started? Because I know they mentioned that some businesses need to be 2 to 4 years in order to be qualified.
So for the grants, there's no operation requirement because essentially what the business is doing is going into new space. So this is why you would get a grant, or you're making improvements. So that's why you get the grant. So for the small business lease program or the improvement grant program that Carla was talking about, you do not have to essentially be operating for a specific amount of time. So you could be a startup essentially. But when it comes to our lending products, yes, because, you know, our lending products are going to have a very traditional underwriting associated to it. So we have to look at your tax returns. We have to see that you have the income to demonstrate you have the proof for the payments. So you can utilize the grants to kind of get you up and started. And then that can, you know, helps kind of feed into some of the support that the CDFIs are offering as well, too, to help you grow. And then you can look to the traditional products.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, one more question.
Hi, how are you? A question is, for example, for the improvement grant, if I do the modification now, I'm still available to apply for it or not?
A modification for what? Did you already apply and receive a grant?
No, I don't. No, that was my question. I want to apply if I do the renovations already. So can I apply it right now?
Yeah.
Because I read it says that 2 years before of the open.
Yeah, so this is a reimbursement. So you had to have done them already. So you're a perfect candidate for that. And this product doesn't require prevailing wage like other traditional state products do. So the fact of the matter is, for all those improvements that you made, you would submit that and the proof of the actual, like what you did and that you paid for it, how you paid for it. If it's a credit card, send in your statements. If it's a bank statement, send in that statement so we can see. And then we reimburse you 50% of those costs back to you, up to 50,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, good morning. So can you apply for 2 programs at the same time? For example, can you apply for the microloan program and also for the opportunity zone with one company?
What do you mean the opportunity zone? There's no program.
I read there's one about opportunity zone program. Is that a different one?
Well, we have set asides for the opportunity zone eligible census tracts, but I mean, holistically, you can apply for the lease grant, improvement grant, micro business loan, because that was the whole kind of thinking behind it, right? You go into new space, you have to make improvements, and then you need working capital. So all 3 of those products you could have applied for at the same time. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and the set aside is just there to ensure, because we can't do one based on gender or race or ethnicity because we need a disparity study done first. So we do the 40% set aside for the OZ eligible census tracts to ensure distressed areas are able to get the funding that's needed in there. So